Leaders, Volpez.
Okay. Welcome to Ludus Volpez. My name's Kirsty.
I'm Phil.
Today, you join us as we run through a strategy guide for Crystal Palace.
Yeah. Okay, this game. Interesting. So Crystal Palace, a game of putting on the World's Fair in 1851. And
1849 to 1851.
the
Continue.
fair was actually 1851. But the build-up was there. And we just thought it might be nice to just talk you through a little strategy guide for this game. So we're not going to go through any of the details of how to play the game. That is for another time, a different video. This strategy guide is for those who have played the game before and would like to play the game a little better.
If you do want to know a rough guide of how to play, whether it's worth picking up, check out our Good, the Bad and Ugly of Crystal Palace.
Sorry, I wasn't doing channel promotion effectively. This strategy guide is very much around playing this game better, but also exploring some fundamental concepts in this game, and I guess other games as well, and things you might wish to consider. So, without any further ado, we'll go down to the board. Kirsty, if you've got any questions, just hit me and I'll stop and we'll go through those questions.
Okay.
So let's have a go down to the board and let's go through a rough idea of how to structure your 5 rounds of Crystal Palace.
I'll begin with my starting resources that I'm just missing here.
Yeah, we're not going to be playing the game, so you're not going to have to watch 2.5 hours of us playing Crystal Palace. So down the board, down here. Okay, so a game of Crystal Palace, each player is going to start with 4 dice. And you're going to secretly select which of those dice, what the value of those dice are. And those dice are going to dictate which actions you'll be able to take on the player board, and whether or not you are going to be able to take the premier action of picking what you want or not. There are 2 advantages to bidding high. One is you get to place the first dice, you get to be first player. The other advantage to bidding high is that you've got more value on your dice to play with, so you'll more likely get the more valuable of all the actions that are available. The other aspect of Crystal Palace that's worth noting at this stage is that loans are available at any point during the game. You take a loan, you place it on your board, you get £10.
It's not an action, you can do it at any stage as a free option.
Yeah, so a couple of important concepts there. Now, before we start this strategy, guys, I want to look at a few things that are out on the board. So during your game, you're going to want to collect a few things. So you're going to want to get patents, and you're going to want to get inventors, and you're probably going to want to get some of these tiles from the British Museum, as they are going to give you the opportunity to gain further income during the game. Now, what's really important with Crystal Palace is that resources, whether it's money, cogs, light bulbs, or even newspapers, are really not that easy to come by.
No.
And what that means is managing income is going to be critical in this game. So you're going to want to think about how you manage income. Each turn that income track is going to trigger, but then it's going to reduce by 3. So we're going to start off by having an income of 4, but that's going to go down to an income of 1 at the end of the first turn. And we're going to have 5 turns. And if you head into the red zone, you're going to be losing victory points as well. So that's something to manage. So what are we going to do? First thing I'm going to do is we're just going to have a look on the board and look at what benefits and bonuses are available. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is these scoring patterns on these cards, and they're all roughly consistent. For the most part, most of them score more in the first 2 rounds than they do in the second 2 rounds than they do in the final round. So, for example, the Steam bookbinding is worth 5 points, then 4 points in the second 2 rounds, and 4 points in the final round. The Steamship, however, is worth 16 points in the first 2 rounds, 11 points in the second 2 rounds, and only 7. So it less than halves its points over the course of the game. And that's something that's really important to consider when you're playing Crystal Palace. If you're having to spend money to collect any of those cards, that money is more valuable in the first 2 rounds of the game.
Correct.
Thanks. So what does it actually mean? Well, it does mean that if you're going to take loans, broadly speaking, taking the loans as early as possible so that you can gain the best cards, the cards that you're translating that loan into greater value earlier in the game. Really important concept number one. Early game is better than late game in this game. It accumulates points. Yeah. So, what am I thinking about doing on this turn? Kirsty, have a look on the board. What kind of things look good to you?
So the first card for me, as it gives me a income every turn from on the first round, would be quite nice to take, I think.
Yeah, so this symbol here, every time you activate the black market, which is once per round, it's going to boost your income by 1. You'll have dropped your income by 3 at that point, but that mitigates some of that, and I agree. At this stage of the game, as an income tile, that's really important. The other thing that tile is going to do is cover one of your -2s. So
on your board.
No negatives there. It is kind of expensive. It's going to cost you 4 light bulbs, and you only start with 1 light bulb. But cash, well, you can pay 4 for a light bulb, so that might work.
The other thing that's very attractive to me, having already played the game, is the stop clock. Now, the stop clock is important. It is double-sided, and when you receive the stop clock, you can either choose to immediately gain 2 victory points, which towards the end of the game you might do.
Yep.
Or, if you flip it over to the other side, every stage 6 of the 5 rounds, you get 3 income.
Which is good,
sorry,
good
3
money,
cash,
3 cash.
not income, sorry, apologies. And that can, literally, you've got 5 rounds, that's 15 extra coins in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's worthwhile. It's worthwhile. At the one point in the game, that could actually pay off 1.5 loans.
Yes, it could.
Just by taking that early on.
Which means if you've taken out 1.5 loans or 2 loans, you're
Yeah.
halfway to clearing them. So I agree.
That's attractive.
Yes, I agree with Kirsty. And so what I'm looking for immediately is anything that's going to give me valuable income later in the game or during the course of the game. And obviously in round 1, that's more important than it is later on in rounds. So these two especially. So this particular one here, which gives me a tile, which improves my income by 1 each turn, and this one also, which improves my income by 1 each turn, is going to be really, really useful.
You could technically end up getting both of those, putting the right dice in the right place.
Yes, so what am I thinking about doing there? Well, for both of those, they're so valuable, I will put 2 6s aside at this stage of the game to make sure I get them. Now, if I got both of those, it means I almost don't have to worry about that income track ever hitting the negative.
Yeah.
So that's my port of call 1. The other 2 tiles here don't give ongoing income, they only give an immediate benefit. So I'm not that interested in those at this stage of the game.
But they are better than a kick in the teeth.
They are certainly better than the kick in the teeth. However, they're not as good as Dr. Watson,
No.
who will allow me to randomly select one of those tiles, which could be an income tile. Now, knowing that these 2 are not income tiles, they're just immediate boost, means that I'm very tempted by Dr. Watson. I'm really tempted by Carl Siemens. Carl Siemens has an income phase just here, so every time he gets to phase 6, when he flips over, every time he gets to phase 6, every time he gets to phase 6, he's got an associated tile. I'll just find that associated tile, number 13. There we go. So here we go. Every time I get to the black market phase, I will get to randomly select one of those tiles.
That's nice.
So I now have a definite 3 things I want to achieve in this first round. I probably won't get to achieve them all. So which carries greater value? These 2 carry greater value for me. This one here and this one here. The other thing that's going to carry value is this guy, and then there's a debate about whether I put another 6 to one side for that one. I know what you're thinking. That's 18 cash money of my 40 cash money already gone, but it's worth it.
Yep.
And then what am I going to do with my last dice? Well, if you're looking around the board, I can come and get Dr. Watson if I want him to randomly choose one, but I feel like this, if I get him, I'll be happy. So other things that I might now be looking to achieve are I'm going to have hopefully one of these guys, one of these on flip, so that could give me 2 buzz, and chasing buzz is a good idea. So I can come here, and I don't mind if I'm in first or second place there, so as long as I go with a 2, I'm fine. I can come here and boost my income, and that 3 is tempting.
It's got no victory points.
It's got no victory points.
Early on, to give you that extra, extra little just push up and boost, it might be worth it.
The other thing I might do is come to Westminster if I've got a dice to ditch, because at Westminster I can come up to here, get 2 cash, and reduce the ongoing cost of Carl.
Yeah.
So that's tempting as well. And the other one is here to come and jump on the black market potentially. So
Yeah.
I think for me, it's a really difficult choice here. I'm not going to have enough of these cards to generate that much buzz, but the following turn I can generate 3 or even 4 buzz potentially. So that's, I might wait a turn for that one.
Yeah.
I think, because he's quite expensive, he's going to cost me 4 every turn. I think my last dice I'd be tempted to put in Westminster, and I'll go with probably a 3 for that.
Just to be safe.
Which means, just to be safe, which means my starting dice are going to be 6, 6 and a 3. So 21 for my starting dice. And that's expensive.
That was still lower than every dice pool that I did in the last game, bar the last one.
Yeah, the other thing to potentially consider with this space here is you've got the black market, but you can also capture another dice. I would tend to wait for newspapers to capture dice. I just feel like it's more efficient than wasting a dice there.
Okay.
So I've got 21. And then the first thing I'm going to do when I reveal my dice is I'm going to take probably 3 to 4 loans on turn 1 after revealing dice.
Immediately get those bad boys locked in.
Yeah, so probably start with 3 just to keep things nice. But it gives me another 30 quid to spend. And it means that I've now got 70 minus 21. So I've got 49 cash to spend. And it means that I can take all of the cards I was looking at without worrying too much. So it's going to cost me a fair bit, but it's worth it because I'm going to get a lot of income stuff out of it.
Yeah.
And that is for me, that's a good start to a game of Crystal Palace. You are looking to generate as many of these ongoing income tiles as you can.
As early as possible.
And if you can get any that boost your income, commit hard to getting those as well. At 18, I feel like I'm going first or second, maybe. And if you are worried about going first or second, boost that 4th dice to a 6 and don't worry about it. And you'll probably go first. Because it's only 3 cash and you're going to take a 30 quid's worth of loans anyway. Now, that's your first 2 turns, I think, taken care of. Now, the problem with Dr. Siemens here, which we're going to commit a dice to, he's going to get us no victory points in round 1. But I'm all right with that, because if we turn this over, we're getting 11 victory points in round 1. We do have to drop someone off here, but we'll be able to put somebody on here anyway, because we're going to claim one of these early spaces. So for me, I think that's what you're looking to do in round 1. You're looking to chase income in the first 2 phases, that first year, 1849. And that's really important to convert the loans you're taking to the maximum victory points. So income and then loans to victory points. So Adolphus Sax here, 15 victory points in the first 2 years, 10 victory points in the second 2 years, and only 5 in the 3rd year. If you take a loan to pay for him in the year 3, you are not getting good value for money. No. You're getting poor value for money. So, first 2 rounds, that's your thinking. Pursue income and pursue it hard. Don't worry too much about spending the money on the dice. Take loans to cover that, because you want to have as much flexibility to claim as much of the right stuff for you as you want.
The first few games when I played this, I was loan fearsome. I was just, I don't want to touch a loan, and I think I only went for like 2 loans. And then another evening recently played, and I only took 3 loans. The most recent game I played, I had 4 loans?
And doubled your score.
4 loans and literally doubled my score. So it is so worth it.
Yeah. Loans are one of those things in the game that feel like a negative, but their net worth over the course of the game, especially if you take them and spend them wisely early, will net you many, many more victory points towards the end of the game. If you're taking loans late in the game, it's acts of desperation because you haven't managed to translate the loans you took early into regular income to pay for things.
Or the people that you brought are slightly more expensive, and you need that just to be able to pay them, or in the like in the last game we played, I had an ability to get like 21 points, wasn't it, by purchasing 2 cards,
Yeah.
2 patents towards the very end, and it was like, actually it's worth doing it for those 21 points.
Yeah, and as you get into the last stage of this game, like any game, you'll want to consider your victory points to cost ratio almost. So that's getting these cards dealt with early and these tiles dealt with early. They're the really important spaces early in the game. The first two turns definitely, maybe turn 3 depending, because you're getting less return as you get further into the game. So what's the rest of the board worth? So, a couple of things to look at now. Look at the London Times. This is where you're generating buzz. You want to look to see if any of the strategies you're applying to the game will allow you to generate buzz early and rapidly. This one, on this particular tile, is all about these cards and these tiles here.
Yeah.
Including Westminster, where you're reducing the cost of them. So it's all about getting the cards and using the cards. That's quite nice, because actually you want those cards.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to have to commit dice to here, but if you're wise about it, you probably only commit dice here 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
With the buzz, the sooner you get up the track, the more valuable the buzz is.
Very much so.
So if you can get to 5 and 7 with 3 rounds left,
Here, I'm placing your counters as such.
and 7, that's for maybe, if you've got 3 scoring rounds left, that's 36 points in the bag, which might mitigate some loans, to be fair.
Yeah.
So 36 points in the bag, or 3 and 5 or 3 and 7, depending on how risky you want to be. If you can probably get to 3 by turn 2, definitely, maybe turn 1 if you really focus on buzz, and if the right cards are out. For example, this Steam bookbinding will give you 3 buzz. So if you were to do that, and you could get to maybe 2 or 3,
Yeah.
you can start generating those victory points earlier.
It's about being brave and not always putting it in the first 2 just to secure it.
Yeah, and the first one's really tempting because it generates buzz, so it pushes you up the buzz track
Yeah.
and generates money if you need it. But against the other reward of regular victory points, it's probably not as valuable as the regular victory points. So I would hold off on that until you can get 3, 5 or 7.
It feels wrong because everyone else is putting their tokens
Discount
there,
straight
but
away.
actually it's like, and you see them on the next round. Oh, they're getting buzz. They're getting, and it's like, actually, no, hold fast, do
Yeah.
it. It's worth it.
So London Times and the buzz track, really important, and really important to keep an eye on what you can achieve. So in the first 3 turns, if you do well, you're probably going to achieve somewhere around the region of 12 buzz, which is going to get you almost all the way to 3, and there's enough over the first 2 rounds to get you past 3. Plus there's some instant benefits as well, which will help.
And bear in mind that this is interchangeable for every game. There's like, what, 8
8 of these, so have a look.
double-sided.
Like one of your very important things that you start the game is have a look to see where that buzz is being generated, because that's going to make
this
a
will
huge
differentiate. Don't expect to see this.
Yeah. Your player boards guide you a little bit, but these victory points here, 1, 4 and 7, for getting your agents up, they're not that valuable a victory point. They can be a little boost towards the end of the game, but they're not. If you've got nothing else to do with an agent move and you qualify for one of those, take it. Otherwise, don't worry about this track too much. The victory points on it are not enough to win you the game. If you're relying on that, you're not playing the game to win. It's just true.
Oops.
So what else have we got on the board to think about? So this is sort of, we've talked about the cards, talked about loans early. Start game. We've talked about the start game with the buzz. There's a couple of parts of the board we've not really spoken of. We've not talked about Waterloo Station, the Port of London. They're 2 areas that we've not touched. Now, Waterloo Station can be quite useful if you've got things in the black market, or you've collected lots of these tiles that trigger when you trigger the black market. So coming to Waterloo Station, I would say your critical time is you're using Waterloo Station almost exclusively for triggering the black market income.
Yeah.
The other two, that 2 buzz there might just nudge you.
Yeah.
And those 2 light bulbs, they're all right. They're worth 8 coins, 2 light bulbs. Well, they cost you 8 to get.
Yes.
So there is value here, but the true value is if you've got enough of those income
Yeah.
tiles and you can trigger that. That's when I would consider coming to Waterloo Station.
Yeah.
Port of London, we've already talked. The bonus dice at the Port of London sounds nice, but newspapers do it more efficiently. The other one here is,
Depends if you're using the expansion or not.
so even then, the cards in the expansion help to get the extra dice. So I would say that coming here for extra dice is an act of desperation almost. 2 cogs also feels a little bit desperate.
It's one of the only places to get a cog from if you don't go to the black market.
Yep. So the black market is quite useful because it triggers every round. It's going to cost you a little bit to put your workers out, but that's not painful. So here, the other 2 areas, we'll talk about tickets. The maximum points you're going to score by putting tickets out
It's 15.
is,
If you do it in the first year.
in the first
15.
year, you're going to get 15 points. Is that worth losing a dice? In my opinion, it's not.
No.
So you're going to ignore potentially 3 or 4 spaces there.
Mm-hmm.
The space that adds a little bit of value is this one,
Yeah.
which allows you to put an agent onto the black market and do that for free. And then do another agent onto the black market or any other agent move for that matter for normal cost.
So anywhere up your personal track or at the black market.
Yeah. Now, the 2 reasons why that's really useful. If this track is full or
That's
near
quickly,
full,
yeah.
like so,
Like that. Or do you want it like
actually
that?
just like that, and Kirsty has the opportunity to place a worker here and then place a worker for -4 cost
That
and
one's
does so.
free.
The next one will cost her 4, but it'll knock me off that board and I lose a huge amount of income that I might have been gearing up for there.
Mm-hmm.
So just the threat of having a dice there can really cause people a bit of a
Yeah,
headache
okay.
with the black market, and that, as a psychological thing, can be really powerful. So we've got on these 2 areas, taking the black market income, really valuable, really useful space, and this one, putting agents out onto the black market, also really useful. The others, if you need them, they're great, but you should be trying to avoid needing them as much as possible. And it's the same with this income area here. If you don't need it, you shouldn't go to it. Your main focus during the game should be on 5 areas of the board. London Times for Buzz. These 2 areas, so the Patent Office and the Reform Club, to make sure, especially early on, you're trading points for or cash for points early
Yeah.
on. And the game really does encourage you to do
Yeah.
that early. And then these 2 areas, this reduces the cost of anyone you've just bought over here. So that can be the ongoing costs and any income up there as well. Incredibly valuable. So early on in the game, take loans, be powerful, and take the spaces you want.
Yeah.
As the game progresses into turn 3, 4, you should be making sure you're well up the buzz track. You've got some discs placed to start scoring more regularly. As high as you can get by sort of turn 3, so you've at least got
So it might be like that.
2 to 3 turns of scoring left over. I mean, that current position there would score me 8, 16, 24 points over the last 3 rounds. That's a good amount. And then the other thing is to manage your income to make sure you got money in to pay loans off.
You don't really want to be hitting this area
No.
up because that's minus
Yeah,
every turn.
And in fact, in a perfect world, you don't want to be taking loans in the last 2 turns.
No.
Loans in the first 3 turns, try and avoid taking loans in the last 2 turns. Load the black market as and when you can, because that's going to score you points as well. And if someone else has loaded the black market, see if you can clear the black market by putting a worker there, because it will absolutely scupper their plans, and that
Yep.
will help you significantly with the game. So overall, that gives you a structured approach
Yeah.
to Crystal Palace. Any questions?
Should you try and aim for a specific country or benefit at all on a board, or
I don't think
take
any.
it in your stride?
I don't think any of the country boards. They're double-sided anyway, so you can always flip them to the other side, whichever one you gain. it's the difference is up to a maximum of 7 points. And honestly, if you're going to play 7 points, if 7 points is going to make that much of a difference in your game, you're missing out somewhere else on points.
Okay.
I would say the other thing to think about is that by round 3, you probably want to have 5 dice in play.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to start costing you money, but it's well worth it. But yes, anything else?
You said obviously not to really go to Bank of England unless you need to.
Yeah.
The other day when we played, obviously we had one of these which actually gave.
Just there, in
actually,
fact.
it might be that
yeah.
one actually.
So
that
this
played.
column here, number of
Yes.
Bank of England tiles you've taken will score you buzz, which at this stage, I might reconsider my approach and take a couple of Bank of England tiles so I can score some buzz.
And this is what Phil was mentioning about it's so important to read the board before play.
Yeah.
See where those points are coming from.
Yeah, and buzz is, in a balanced game, if you're playing a balanced strategy, buzz is really important because it will bring your points in. If you're playing a card-heavy strategy and not worrying about buzz, this is where your money's focused, over
Yeah.
here on cards. But if you're playing a heavy card strategy, you're going to be resource shy quite a lot of the
Yes.
game. It's going to cost you a lot of money to focus on that.
Yeah.
Buzz is a kind of like almost a freebie, and it's a free way of scoring points on a regular basis.
Anything else? Nothing as far as I can think of.
That's okay.
Is there a particular strategy that you have towards playing off loans?
Yeah, try as much as you can.
I mean, do you do it early or as late in the game as possible?
So
or-
unless you've got a reason to pay off a loan early, which normally you don't pay them off until the end of the game because
Okay.
you have that opportunity at the end of the game.
I'd say
However,
that might be where newspapers changes it, then the expansion.
yeah, and actually there's some of these cards that score points for paid off loans.
Okay.
So if you've got something that's scoring points for paid off loans regularly, then pay off your loans as you can. But I would say the value of, you're still spending cash when you need cash. So I would always, almost exclusively pay off my loans right at the end of the game. Like if I'm in the last round and I can score a couple of points through paying it off, I probably will. But the cash ratios don't work out particularly well. Like I say, Adolf Sachs is worth 15 points in the first 2 rounds. So if I'm paying for him, which is 14 cash to pay for him, if I'm paying 14 cash for 15 points, that's not bad.
Yeah.
If I'm paying 14 cash for 5 points, that feels a bit bad, a bit poor. So you want to be, and obviously you can accumulate the resources to do that, but early on in the game, spend money, later in the game, spend resources.
Yeah.
And hopefully that balances your need to take out any more loans later in the game.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so hopefully you found this video useful if you play Crystal Palace and want to play a little bit better. And if you have found it useful, please like and subscribe.
If you have any questions and you'd like Phil to answer those, drop them below in the comments and, I'll point it out to him or you'll notice it and you'll just
we do
drop a
respond to
little
most
message.
comments,
We do,
so yeah.
we do. So, yeah, don't hesitate to come up with any questions you may have.
Okay. We are also available on Facebook.
Twitter and Instagram. All you need to do is search for Ludus Vulpes.
Thank you for today.
Thanks everyone.
Speak to you soon.
soon.
Bye-bye.